They say every house has a history. Most are content with dry rot and bad wiring. Some keep older ledgers, written in a currency no appraiser can weigh. This is the story of one such ledger, bound in cracked leather and human greed, and of the young couple who mistook a foreclosure auction for salvation. What follows is the complete record of their first 13 months at 47 Ravenwood Lane, reconstructed from bank statements, frantic voice memos, hospital records, police reports, and the single page of the covenant that somehow survived the fire. Read it if you wish, but never, under any circumstances, sign anything you have not read aloud in an empty room at 3:33 a.m. Some clauses only take effect once they have been spoken where the walls can hear. In October of 2022, Calvin and Mara Holt signed the papers for 47 Ravenwood Lane, a narrow Victorian that had sat empty for 9 years on the edge of Blackthorn, Massachusetts. The price was impossibly low, $87,000 for a 4-bedroom house with original stained glass and a widow's walk. The bank called it a distressed asset. Calvin called it a miracle. Their realtor, a thin woman named Denise Park, kept glancing at the basement door while they walked through, as if something behind it might follow her out. On the final page of the mortgage packet, buried between the till disclosure and the flood cert addendum, was a single rider titled Covenant of Continuous Occupancy. Neither Calvin nor Mara remembered reading it. They moved in on a Tuesday. By Thursday, the mailman refused to climb the porch steps. He left packages on the sidewalk and sprinted back to his truck. The first night, Mara woke to the sound of wet footsteps climbing the stairs. She found no prints on the runner, only a faint smell of river mud. Calvin discovered that the interest rate on their loan was not 3.9%. It was 3.333%, repeating forever. The decimal went on for pages when he zoomed in on the PDF. A letter arrived from Blackthorn Trust and Guarantee, the lender none of them had ever heard of before closing. It was handwritten on heavy cream stock. Welcome home. Payment is due on the 13th of every month. Cash or equivalents. Their first payment cleared on November 13th. The next morning, their checking account showed a new line item. Occupancy tribute, accepted. The amount withdrawn was exactly $1 more than they had sent. Mara, 8 weeks pregnant, began bleeding the same week. The OB/GYN found no heartbeat. Sometimes these things just happen, she said. Mara heard scratching inside the ultrasound room walls. Calvin called the bank. The hold music was a child singing, "Ring Around the Rosie," in a minor key. After 40 minutes, a man with a smoker's rasp answered, "You're in. No refinancing, no selling, read the covenant." Then he hung up. They found the covenant in a kitchen drawer they had never opened. It was written in faded brown ink on paper that felt damp. Paragraph 17 stated, "The borrower shall provide 1 soul per decade of residence or forfeit the collateral in full." Calvin laughed until he realized the document was dated 1893 and signed by every previous owner of 47 Ravenwood Lane, including 3 names that matched obituaries he found online. On December 13th, they tried to skip the payment. At 3:33 a.m., every light in the house blazed on. The front door unlocked itself and swung open to an empty street. Their bank statement later showed the exact payment deducted anyway, plus a $666 repossession initiation fee. Mara started sleeping in the guest room. She told Calvin the master bedroom smelled like wet earth and old pennies. Their dog, a rescue mutt named Juniper, refused to cross the threshold of the nursery they had begun painting soft yellow. One night Juniper vanished. They found her collar on the basement stairs, chewed through as if by human teeth. Calvin's boss at the accounting firm laid him off the day the second trimester would have started. "Budget cuts," he said. Calvin saw the man's eyes flicker black for half a second. A new clause appeared on their online mortgage portal overnight. Acceleration upon vacancy triggered. Full balance due within 36 months unless substitute collateral is tendered. The balance now read $999,999.99. They contacted a real estate attorney named Lionel Graves. He took one look at the covenant rider, went pale, and handed back the file. "I can't help you," he whispered. "My grandfather's signature is on page 4. The house began renovating itself. Peeling wallpaper rolled downward like skin, revealing fresh plaster underneath. The nursery painted itself blood red while they slept. On the winter solstice, Mara woke to find a crib in the nursery that hadn't been there the night before. Inside lay a single black and white photograph of their lost ultrasound. Calvin tried to burn the covenant in the fireplace. The flames turned blue and spat the document back onto the hearth, unblemished. Strangers began ringing the doorbell at 3:33 a.m., asking to see the collateral. They were always gone by the time Calvin reached the door, leaving only wet footprints that evaporated before his eyes. Mara's hair started falling out in clumps. Each strand had a tiny knot at the end, like it had been tied. They attempted to leave for a hotel. 40 miles out, every road sign pointed back to Blackthorn. The GPS voice changed to a little girl whispering, "You owe, you owe, you owe." A foreclosure notice arrived dated 1894, yellowed and brittle, yet postmarked yesterday. Calvin found a hidden panel in the basement. Behind it, rows of small jars filled with what looked like ashes and teeth. One jar was newly empty, label written in fresh ink, "Holt, First Installment." Mara stopped speaking above a whisper. When Calvin asked why, she said, "They're listening through my throat." The bank sent a final letter on black paper with silver ink. Balance may be satisfied by voluntary surrender of 1 adult soul or 2 juvenile. Offer expires 13th day of the 13th month of residence. On the anniversary of their move-in, the house locked every window and door from the inside. The locks turned with the wet click of bone. At 3:33 p.m. on October 13, 2023, the temperature in the house plummeted. Frost spelled words on the nursery wall. Time to pay. Calvin loaded a shotgun he didn't remember buying. The shells were filled with rock salt and coffin nails. Mara sat in the red nursery rocking a crib that was now occupied by something that breathed but had no face. The front door knocked 3 times. Calvin opened it to find Denise Park, the realtor, older by decades, skin gray and peeling. She smiled with too many teeth and said, "I brought your new mortgage statement." Behind her stood every previous owner of 47 Ravenwood Lane, eyes milk white, mouths sewn shut with black thread. Denise handed Calvin a single sheet. The new balance read $0. Beneath it, in red, "Paid in full, collateral accepted." Mara began to scream, but the sound came from the crib, not her mouth. The sewn mound owners filed into the house one by one, climbing the stairs toward the nursery like pilgrims. Calvin raised the shotgun, but the barrels bent downward as if made of wax. Denise kissed his forehead with lips cold as a headstone and whispered, "Thank you for making the payments on time." On October 14, 2023, a young couple toured 47 Ravenwood Lane with a nervous realtor. The asking price had dropped again, $81,000 this time. The nursery had already been repainted soft yellow, and the listing photos showed a beautiful, empty Victorian ready for new memories. No one mentioned the faint smell of river mud that never quite went away, or the way the front door sometimes opens by itself at 3:33 in the morning, waiting. There is no such thing as a deal too good to be true. There is only payment deferred. The universe keeps perfect books. Interest compounds in ways no disclosure can warn you about, and the collateral is always, always you. When the price looks like mercy, run. When the contract asks for continuous occupancy, and the realtor will not meet your eyes, tear it up and sleep in your car. Because some debts cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. Some debts cannot be outlived, and some houses are not haunted. They are hungry, patient, and very, very good at waiting for the next signature at the bottom of the page. On a crisp morning in November 2025, 47 Ravenwood Lane went back on the market. The listing boasts fresh paint, refinished hardwoods, and motivated institutional seller. The asking price is $79,999. Cash or equivalents preferred. The nursery is once again soft yellow. The basement door sticks a little, but a good kick usually opens it. The covenant rider has been updated for modern borrowers. Now only 6 pages instead of 12, printed in friendly 11-point calibri. Paragraph 17 is still there, buried between the e-sign disclosure and the lead paint addendum. It reads exactly the same as it did in 1893. The realtor's name is new, but her smile is not. She will tell you the faint smell is just old house charm. She will tell you the interest rate is historic. She will tell you to sign here, initial there, and welcome home. And somewhere beneath the floorboards, something tallies the new balance, licks its teeth, and begins the slow, patient work of collecting. Because the mortgage is never paid off. It is only transferred, and the house is always, always hungry for the next family that believes a low monthly payment is the same thing as mercy.